The Steve Austin Show is brought to you free today by our friends at BetOnline. Get in the mix at betonline.ag and use the promo code PodcastOne for your 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts and exclusive partner of PodcastOne Sportsnet.
PodcastOne presents the Steve Austin Show Classics.
I flew into Cincinnati, Ohio today over here at the airport via an airplane, and that's why I landed at the airport, because I was in an airplane, and it just brought back memories because I was in the hometown of my old tag team partner with the Hollywood Blondes, Flying Brian Pillman, and I started thinking about Brian and all the stupid shit we did and some of the crazy angles. And I said, man, I got to get on YouTube and watch that old angle called Pillman's Got a Gun, 11/4/96 Raw as War, when I invaded his house and proceeded to break in with an aluminum baseball bat, and he had a 9mm waiting on my ass. I tell you what, it brought back a lot of memories watching that, because I had them two old boys out there in his driveway, and I commenced to open up a can of whoop ass on them, stomping a mud hole in them and walking it dry, and just beating the dog shit out of them old boys out there in Brian's driveway. And I took that one old boy and chucked his ass into the swimming pool and then started drowning him. And then the other guy thought he was going to come get some, and I put his head and started crunching it in that Jeep Grand Cherokee right there, that red one. I'm sitting there watching it right now. I kicked his one son, his boy clubbed him over the back of his head, and oh, it's time to take his ass over to the kiddie pool, take him swimming. Here he goes. You better get your life jacket on. Hell, I'm trying to drown this son, bitch. It's freezing cold out there. Here comes big boy. I done ripped his shirt up. I'm fixing to take his ass back. Watch here. Put his little head, on top of the Jeep. Someone going to take that Jeep to the body shop, get it repainted. Now, oh, dude, hit the dude with the trash can. Watch this. I sling him into the damn garage door. When I slung that dude into the garage door with so much force, it knocked it off his track, and Brian never got that thing fixed. Now I'm crushing this guy's head with the door of the Jeep. Now this is just good entertainment. This is badass. And so now I'm dragging this guy over here. I'm fixing to throw a red wagon at him. You talk about calling it in the ring. Oh, I hit him with the damn letter from the kiddie pool. Now this was a new one. Hit him in the damn head with a damn wagon. That'll leave a mark. Now, give this other guy a little bit more business. I talk a little shit to him and then come on around. This was such a fun angle. Then I commenced to going over here. Let me fast forward this thing. I go over here to the back door, and Kevin Kelly is in there interviewing Brian, and Vince cuts in, and Vince is always so good at asking the right questions at a time like this. And I pick up an aluminum bat and start swinging for the fence when I'm breaking out that back window in Brian's house. And as soon as I hit that motherfucker, I'm thinking, holy shit, this is a high-quality piece of glass. I'm going to have to swing harder. Of course, you know what happened. You can watch it back on YouTube and check it out. I come stomping through there, and Brian pulls that gun on me. The screen goes black, and all of a sudden it's chaos. Brian's going absolutely batshit crazy. His ankle's all fucked up. Where's Stone Cold Steve Austin? What happened? Did the gun actually go off? Brian pulled that thing off with perfection, man. And I was out there laughing my ass off while he was doing his thing in there. So we stirred up a lot of damn animosity with some people on TV with that damn angle. But nonetheless, I thought it was highly effective. You can check it out on YouTube. It's one of my favorite angles I did in the WWF. And I did it with my old buddy there in his stomping grounds in Cincinnati, Ohio. But anyway, let me click his video off. Stop going down memory lane. Oh, here I come back again and get some more. Goddamn, Brian was one funny son of a bitch. So, hey, here we go. We're going to get you right to some questions here. I'm drinking an IPA over here in Hamilton, Ohio. I'm going to work tomorrow morning on this here movie. Swig a beer for the working man. All right, check it out. This first question is a very interesting question, and I answer this thing all the time, and I'm going to bury the hatchet about this motherfucker once and for all. It says, hey, Stone Cold, what are you always fiddling with when you're doing interviews? It's so annoying. Is it poker chips, pistachios, or are you doodling with a marker? For the love of God, sit on your hands and do the interview. Gord. Well, listen up, Gord, you little mealy-mouthed motherfucker. You're lucky I don't fly over there to your hometown and bury my foot up in your ass. That ain't me fiddle fucking around with a bunch of stuff on my damn table. I'm sitting there like a damn professional podcaster because that's what I do for a living on this award-winning podcast. I ain't doing a goddamn thing. For some reason, that's the Skype application on my Mac computer. Or there's some gears in my computer that just turn loud as a motherfucker, and somehow they get recorded. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it ain't me. You understand what I'm saying? So anybody that asks me that question, where the noise is coming from in those Skype interviews, I don't fucking know. I need to get me a little bitty motherfucker. I mean the smallest motherfucker I can find, and get him a can of WD-40 and let him crawl inside my computer and squirt all the gears down. Because that's the only way, the only thing that can possibly be happening, unless it's within the Skype application itself. I don't know, but I ain't doing a goddamn thing. Shit, you think I would disrespect my goddamn guests by sitting there fiddle fucking around making noise? I know they can't hear the noise when I'm talking to them. I don't hear the noise when I'm talking to them, but somehow it gets recorded. Anyway, Gord, goddamn. Yeah, and if you're wondering if I'm hot about it, yeah, I'm fucking hot about it. Shit. And if you wonder why I'm talking kind of halfway quiet, it's because I'm in this hotel room and I don't want to make a bunch of goddamn ruckus and people start beating on the damn walls, want me to shut the fuck up, because then I might have to go over there and open up a can of whoop ass on their sorry ass. Goddamn, Gord, I don't know where to shit or wind my watch. But I hope I answered your question. I appreciate you sending the email in to me. Folks, I do the best I can with this podcast. When I get to go into that studio with Stacy and we use those phone lines, everything is crystal clear and it's high precision and professionalism. And Stacy's awesome at her job. We got a great facility down there. But when I'm out here humping it on the road, trying to pay those gimmicks they send in the mail call bills, and I just got this little laptop computer and I got to Skype a conversation with people, it is what it is, brother. But thank you for the email, and there's your answer. You sorry-ass motherfucker. Here's one from a football fan. It's football season. We're right in the playoffs, and I'm loving it. Here's one from Shuey, and he's pissed off in Macomb, Michigan. He says, I got to say, Steve, your Dallas Cowboys must have been channeling the late, great Eddie Guerrero, because they lied, cheated, and stole that victory from the Lions. The refs picking up the flag after making the call was just ludicrous. Then to top it off, they didn't even call a penalty on Des Bryant for coming off the sidelines arguing the call when he wasn't even involved in the play. I'm sure glad that ref isn't in Michigan, because I would be smacking the taste out of his mouth. Anyway, keep up the great work on your show. Try to get Finley on as a guest. Thank Jerry Jones for paying off the refs so your team gets to play Green Bay. Boy, I love me some football. And Shuey, it looks like you love you some football too. It was what it was. I knew the Dallas Cowboys were going to have a hard time with the Detroit Lions. I showed up in San Antonio Sunday night, and I watched that game while I ate at Applebee's and had a margarita and a beer. And like I said, Applebee's, y'all need to get an IPA on your list there, please, so I'll go back to your restaurant again. But finally, Dallas pulled it off, and that was an iffy call. That was interference in my opinion, and it was what it was. And sometimes, the ball bounced Dallas's way on that particular thing. And Jerry Jones didn't pay nobody off. Sometimes you get the call, sometimes the call goes against you. It was interesting to see, though, the interviews by some of the Lions players afterward, and the emotions of Ndamukong Suh, one of a tough guy in the NFL, a big bully, and somewhat of he takes some cheap shots sometimes, but I really like the way that guy plays, and I just wish he'd clean it up a little bit, because I like his talent so much. But he was emotional after the game, and to see that level come out of him was interesting to me, and to see his passion for the game. And certainly no one has ever questioned his passion for football, sometimes just the means with which he plays. But I do love a mean streak, but you got to play by the rules and within those rules. And, Matthew Stafford, who's been working hard out there for so long, handled that loss with pure class and style. And, man, I just, wish that, Calvin Johnson, old Megatron, I wish they could get to a Super Bowl and do something. They've got a lot of good pieces on that team. They're still, maybe they can get there next year, but they're not going to get this year, because Dallas Cowboys sent them packing. Tony Romo's putting it together. It's going to be a hell of a task going up there to Green Bay, to the frozen tundra, to take on Aaron Rodgers and Gordon Nelson, Clay Matthews, all those guys. Green Bay's got it going pretty good over there, playing in their yard. So Romo's have to be on his game. He has been so far, has a badass year this year. So I'll be tuning in. Cowboys, Packers, I appreciate you sending in the email. Football season like a motherfucker up in this mug. Here's one. This is from Ryan over in the UK. He says, hey, man, straight to it. Was there any method behind you wrestling attire? Plain black trunks, knee pads, and boots, or was it simply practicality? To this day, everyone else seems to go over the top with crazy designs. Big fan of the show. Hey, I got a big stronghold over there in the UK. I appreciate all you guys listening to the show, and gals, over there across the pond. You know, when I first started off in the wrestling business, my trunks were loud, and I wore long tights. And finally, you know, someone said, hey, Steve, your legs, probably your best body part. You need to show your legs. So I never did like trunks back in the day. So I got my scissors and I just cut them off. And I had those spandex shorts. And those lasted for a long time. And it was kind of a cool look, I thought, at the time for Stunning Steve. Kind of a, you know, guy with a little bit of a body, long hair, athletic build. And Terry Taylor, who I always respected in the ring, says, man, he goes, you need to wear trunks. You know, show off your legs, you wear trunks. And so that inspired me to get the trunks made that I got made. And I started off with some ugly-ass, different colored trunks. God damn, those things were hideous. But then I had a couple of good pairs with those plain black ones, you know, and I put U.S. Champ on there, or a Dragon Slayer, or Just Win Baby, which was an Al Davis Oakland Raider slogan. And so I remember when WWF hired me, and they wanted me to wear, you know, money green, emerald green singlets. And I said, fuck no, I ain't wearing no singlet. So I made my debut in that emerald green pair of trunks. But then I just said, hey, fuck this. These motherfuckers brought me in here to just be a mechanic. I'm going to wear whatever the fuck I want. So that's when I started wearing my black trunks. And then my Hollywood Blondes boots, the white ones with the star, wore out. And I replaced those with some black, as we would call in the business, shooter boots. They were kind of shorter than your average boot. And because my legs aren't particularly long, looked pretty good, you know, on my foot. So that's why I wore those boots. And then, you know, with the knee injuries came the black braces. And I wanted everything to match up, so I just stuck to plain black. If I had to go back in the ring right now, I would wear the same shit. But now, with the advent of all the different color combinations they have, that matte black, that flat blacks to that murdered out look that they always talk about when you put it on a car, I would go with the murdered out leg braces rather than the glossy black ones. That's the only thing I would have changed. And it turned out, to answer your question, there was... And it turns out, Ryan, to answer your question, finally that's when all the pieces came together. The Stone Cold gimmick came up, you know, the shaved head, the goatee, and the look. It just, that was the perfect look. And then I remember Terry Anderson used to make my all my ring gear. And on Twitter, she's redheaded. On Twitter, she's redheaded Stitch. And she made all my trunks. I only had a few pair of trunks. She made all my black vests. And she made that initial vest. It said Stone Cold on the back in black and white and light blue. And because, you know, that light blue was kind of cool looking, temperature-based. And that was okay. And I had a pair of trunks made like that. And so then we said, no, let's just go plain black. And then I said, you know, what if we put a skull on this jacket? And those silver skulls and all that writing she made, that was done with melted glue. Now, I don't know how the fuck she did it, and she charged me way too much for it because her prices are higher than Giraffe Pussy. She must be related to Ted Fowler 361 down there at Ted Fowler Construction in Rockport, Texas. But anyway, she did great work, and she's a very dear friend. So, Terry, in the slim chance that you're listening to the show, you charge... Your prices that you charge are too high, but you do some damn good work, you and your sister both. And that was the look that worked out for me. And the beauty about always wearing black, you know, it can get dirty as fuck. And you always want to keep your gear clean, rinse it out in the sink, you know, every couple of days, depending on how long you're on the road, bring a couple of pairs. But it's just easy to maintain and easy to take care of, low profile. And that was the bottom line on my ring gear. I went from the wild, crazy shit to the basic black stuff. And to your point, to go back with the over-the-top crazy designs these days, it's like everybody's trying so hard to try to come up with something so fancy that that's what stands out. And it's like, man, you could have a 68 Corvette Stingray, and if you just paint that summit one solid-ass bad color, it's going to look cool as a motherfucker. Sometimes when you try too hard and make that thing 16 colors, it just ain't the same old, same old. You had a badass car and you fucked it up by making it too colorful. Keep it simple, guys. If it works for you, fine, but don't try to be, Liberace in the wrestling ring as far as the colored gimmicks that you wear to in the ring. Sometimes too much is too much. And as Gene Simmons would always say, keep it simple, stupid. I did. Here's another one. I think I would answer this question in my Forrest Gump tone. He said, Steve, congratulations on the first episode of the Broken Skull Challenge second season. Awesome challenges and a great course. Mac was good, but he was not great. Tommy was great. What do I need to do to take on the Broken Skull Challenge? Thank you, Ryan Gilmore, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Hey, let me tell you something. Mac kicked ass, and Tommy was great. But here's the thing. Mac is a premier athlete, but what he did was, you got to be a bad motherfucker to get through my course, but you got to be a smart motherfucker to get through my course too. And when Mac took off down the hill with that backbreaker, this year, that's a 70-pound log. Last year was a 60-pound log, and that's a quarter-mile steep-ass grade. It will take a lot of the damn gas out of your tank. He hauled ass, mister. That whole front end of the course, you could see how bad he was smoking Tommy's time. But that's the problem. He was going balls out at the start, didn't have enough at the finish. All those different elements, I say it every episode, they chip away at different parts of your body, and they start fucking with your head. And so Mark blew through that motherfucker like a banshee, kicking ass, and then all of a sudden, Heartbreak Hill stopped him in his tracks. But let's talk about what happened before Heartbreak Hill. When he got to the log jam, everybody I'd ever seen go over those things used their hands and vaulted over them. Mac, that crazy motherfucker, jumped on top of the first one and then jumped from log jam to log jam to log jam to jump off, and then ran and dove headfirst into the deep freeze underneath the fence structure hanging over the surface of the water without a hesitation. That son of a bitch was gung-ho like a sumbitch. Holy smokes, it was the most impressive thing I've ever seen out there. Unparalleled and unprecedented. And then, back to where I was, let me digress, back to Heartbreak Hill. Man, when you're fresh, that hill will kick your ass. When you run through that course like Mac run through that course, it really kicked his ass, and that's where he lost the time. And it was a close race. Tommy won by, 19-20 seconds, and I give it up to Tommy. Man, that dude's a class act, and he is a premier athlete. But he attacked the course in a much more savvy, veteran, workmanship-like attack mode. And Tommy even had a fail on the Nutcracker this season, just like he did last season. But the guy always maintains his focus and his composure and sticks to the task at hand. He's a national caliber athlete. He's a badass, and he's a reigning champ at Broken Skull Challenge. But Mac kicked ass, and I give that kid a lot of credit. If I could get, 5, 6, 7, 8 Macs on the show every single episode, you guys would be going crazy out there, because that kid is a good kid and is a hell of an athlete. So congratulations, Mac. You didn't beat Tommy's time, but you came out to the Broken Skull Challenge and you kicked ass, and I'm proud of you. And to my returning champion, Tommy Hackenbrook, at Tommy Hacksaw on Twitter, man, you're a badass dude, and we'll see what happens as the season unfolds, because you got a target on your back over there at CrossFit in Utah.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
As an employer, you've got a lot on your plate: running your business, ensuring workplace safety, and much more. So leave your hiring to the one place that makes finding qualified candidates fast and easy. ZipRecruiter.com/Steve. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job sites, but they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. ZipRecruiter makes hiring efficient and effective with features like screening questions to filter candidates and all-in-one dashboard where you can review and rate your candidates. ZipRecruiter is so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, to try ZipRecruiter for free, my listeners can go to ZipRecruiter.com/Steve. That's ZipRecruiter.com/STEVE. ZipRecruiter.com/Steve. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Here, let's do another one. Oh, Tommy's a good dude. We'll sit there and talk football and Urban Meyer, all kinds of stuff like that between the gigs. Hey, man, speaking of Urban Meyer, god damn. Ohio State opened up a can of whoop-ass on my Alabama Crimson Tide, Nick Saban. And I'm an Urban Meyer fan, everybody knows. Two of my favorite coaches in college football are Urban Meyer and Nick Saban. And I tell you what, I thought Alabama was going to have this game. But that D-line of Ohio State, and they create a lot of opportunities for themselves. They made a lot of plays. And I'll tell you what, God, that damn quarterback, Jones, man, that guy was hell on wheels, 6'5", 250. And here's the thing. 2 quarterbacks for Ohio State are down. The first-string quarterback, the second-string quarterback. 2 guys, Braxton Miller, dynamic playmaker. What's the other guy's name? T.J. Barrett, or J.T. Barrett, T.J. Barrett, whatever. Another dynamic playmaker. And then this guy steps in and absolutely goes crazy. Started off a little bit rocky, but then, boy, as that game got going, he just got all the confidence in the world. So I should know his name. I should pronounce that better, but I didn't know I was going to segue into college football. But nonetheless, let's get back to the task at hand, and that's answering your questions. I got to drink this beer, get some sleep, and go out on the gig tomorrow. Oh, and Ryan, to finish your question, what I need to do to take on the Broken Skull Challenge, go to cmt.com or brokenskullchallenge.com and fill out the application. And if I think you're tough enough, I'll get back to you. All right, here's a guy. He's got 5 questions. What's the one favorite movie of yours of all time that you're not in? Man, I can't give you one, but I'll give you Shawshank Redemption, Cool Hand Luke, and Jeremiah Johnson. Now, I can't give you any better than that. What's your one favorite album of all time? The one that I always go back to that just really sticks out in my mind is the debut album by Boston. If you could spend the day with one person from any point in history, who would it be? Now, I didn't go crazy thinking about this for a long ass time, but I always think it'd be neat to hang out one day with Evel Knievel and ask him questions and shoot the shit. And maybe just cruise around on motorcycles a little bit. Evel Knievel. If you could have one gun, handgun or rifle, what is the gun you would choose? Man, I got single action 45s, 9s, Glock, double action 45s. I've got AR-10s, 15s, bolt guns, 300 Win Mags, 7 mags. But if you're just going to give me that one gun, by all rights, I should probably pick that 7 mag or 300 Win Mag for North American usability, versatility, should I say. But, man, I got about 4 308s that are bolt guns, and I would pick, any one of my 308s that I have, and that's for hunting on the Broken Skull Ranch down there in South Texas. I love that 308 caliber. And you can argue about calibers all day long with people who love their particular calibers, and it's like arguing Ford, Chevy, or Dodge, which one makes the best pickup. There's some great calibers out there. Am I saying that 308 is the best deer caliber in the world? No. I'm just saying it's highly effective in my hands, and that's what I like to shoot on a daily basis at the Broken Skull Ranch. I appreciate your questions. Here's one. This is from a young lady that I've known now for, man. All right, here we go. Here's another question. This is from Christine. Christine and I met a long time ago on an autograph session that I was doing, and she's been a big fan for a long time. And she said, Steve, I got a lot of updates on my site, stonecoldcollector.com. Any way you could give the site a shout out. Just reached 18 years of collecting, 5 years online. Love the podcast. Favorite is Unleashed. So, Christine, here's your shout out. Y'all check out stonecoldcollector.com and check out the website that Christine has been working on for a long time. And she's been a long-time fan. And I always appreciate all of my fans and Christine, all the stuff that you've made for me and sent me way back in the day. There's your plug. Hey, Steve, love the podcast. I have one question for you. Which wrestling theme songs have you liked the most? Personally, I've always loved Edges by Alter Bridge. It was the first time I heard them, and they've been my favorite band ever since. Curtis from Ireland. Curtis, that's a badass song, and that's a good group. But I tell you what, and I enjoyed that entrance music, but I tell you what, that guitar that just pierces your eardrums when Bret Hart's music hits, it's hard to beat that music. When you listen to Shawn Michaels' music, that's another great entrance song. When you listen to that gong of The Undertaker's theme music, that's a badass one. One more in my top 5 of all the badass songs in the history of pro wrestling, and I could give you like 20 more, but I'm just going to give you a couple. Triple H's Game. Like I was talking about a couple of months ago on that podcast when Triple H came out and Lemmy and Motorhead were playing, and Lemmy said, we're Motorhead, and we're here to kick your ass. Man, they rocked the house that night, man. One of the premier fucking rock and roll bands in history. Everybody that ever picked up a musical instrument digs Lemmy and Motorhead or pays some credence to those guys for being around as long as they have and paying the dues that they paid up and down the road and setting a lot of groundwork and influence for many rock bands to follow in their footsteps. But Triple H had some badass music as well. And don't get me wrong, the Breaking of That Glass, Stone Cold Steve Austin music, whether it was the Disturbed version or the original Jim Johnston version or whatever, it was all badass. Swig a beer for the working man. Here's an interesting question that made me think a little bit. He said, hey, Steve, when you got fired from WCW because of your tricep injury, we all know the story that you got a call from Paul Heyman a few days later to go cut promos for ECW. But I want to know what your plans were before you got that call and where you saw your career going. Okay, and that's from Mark over there in Belfast, Ireland. Swig a beer to Belfast. Oh, that's a good question, and where my career was going to probably go, I thought in my mind at the time, although I never made a phone call, was either going to be New Japan or All Japan Pro Wrestling, just because I enjoyed the style over there. I was a pretty good mechanic over there, and, you know, I'd just been told I wasn't marketable by Eric Bischoff and fired. And I'd already been to see Vince twice, and I knew that his plans for me were nothing more than a mechanic. He did not see superstar written on me, and so I did not want to go to WWF. I did not want to pick up the phone. I did not want to ask Vince McMahon for a job. I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. Paul Heyman was the first guy to call me, and I accepted the job there on the spot. And putting in a body of work there over the next few months under the guidance and watchful eye and ear of Paul Heyman, got the call from Vince McMahon, and I got pitched the ringmaster and went with it, knew it was a shitty gimmick, and turned that into Stone Cold. But to answer your question, I figured my career would be in Japan, you know, trying to follow in the footsteps of, you know, guys like Terry Bam Bam Gordy, Dr. Death Steve Williams, Bruiser Brody, Stan the Lariat Hansen, and those are 4 guys that were huge stars over there in Japan. So where I would have been able to measure up to their standards without the Stone Cold gimmick, I have no idea. And I would likely say doubtful that I would have achieved what those guys had achieved without being Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's my respect to those guys and the career and the past that they blazed over there in Japan. Here's one from a guy named Angel. Hey, Steve, I was listening to your show as I fold laundry, clean, and cook, and it makes time much more enjoyable. Rob Zombie guitarist John Five had a guitar signed by Stevie Ray Vaughan when he was younger. He traded in that guitar, I believe, when Vaughan was still alive. When you hear John Five talk about this guitar, he clearly regrets trading it, as it would have been quite valuable now. My question for you is, how do you feel about his trade-in? And knowing you're such a big fan of Stevie Ray Vaughan, would you have ever traded in such an item? Thanks for your time, Angel. Well, you know what? I bet John Five wishes he still had that guitar. But sometimes we get in a place and, a different mood strikes us. You want something different, and you just make a trade. And then, later on, it comes back to bite you, and you wish you would have never done that to begin with. But, hey, man, ain't no doubt. It would have been John Five or anybody. Anybody could have made that trade and, certainly regretted it, because it's not like you're going to walk around a block and find another Stevie Ray Vaughan signature on a guitar, especially one that you already enjoyed playing and felt good in your hand. So, hey, man, sometimes we do these things in life, and it comes back to haunt you a little bit. So he'll never get that guitar back, and he's got to move on down the road. Now, the reason I answered that question was because he says, P.S., what was that rustling in the background of your last podcast of 2014 with Wade Keller that was annoying as fuck, but still a good interview? Thanks for the podcast, Steve. It's almost as good as seeing you in the ring. Have a beer for the boys in England. Lee Brunson. Hey, Lee, I'm having an IPA over here in Hamilton, Ohio. That rustling wasn't anything. It's a goddamn noise that the Skype application makes. Don't make me get on an airplane and fly over to the UK and bury my foot up in your ass. I appreciate your question. I'm a big Stevie Ray Vaughan fan. I appreciate you listening to the show. Swig of beer to Lee. Hey, I'm coming right back. Take a pause for the calls right now and a word from sponsors. Keep the show on the air for free.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
The wait is finally over. Football is back. Opening night is going down this Thursday, September 10th, as the Houston Texans take on the champion Kansas City Chiefs. You might not be at a game this year, but you can still be in on action at BetOnline. BetOnline is going the extra mile to make sure you can get in on everything imaginable this season. From game spreads and totals to team, player, and coaching props, BetOnline gives you more options to wager than any place online. You can get in on their season opening bonuses today and start off wagering on win, division, and championship futures today. Head to BetOnline online today and take advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Buddy, here we go, sitting over here in Hamilton, Ohio, drinking beer, talking to you guys, and the question you guys sent in, and I got one from Newark, Delaware, from Mark Cole. He says, Steve, can you talk about how hard it was working a War Games match? Was it a clusterfuck with all the guys in the ring? And what do you remember about the epic blade job you did in War Games pay-per-view match? Man, actually, that was a pretty easy match to work. There were 2 rings. You had a bunch of badass workers in there. No one really called any high spots or worked anything out in the back. This is kind of before you did that kind of stuff. You had a couple of trademark things that you might have done, or a fishbone of things that were on your menu, but you called it in the ring. But I'll never forget, man, I hit a good one that night, got good color. And I've told this story before about Dustin, being on top of me, punching me, and he looked down at me and he said, God damn, he goes, good color. And I said, thanks. And we just kept working the match. But, what's really a tough match to work is battle royals, royal rumbles, things of that nature. Because, when you got 20 guys or better inside that ring, it starts getting real crowded real fast. And then you'll have somebody want to come in there and run a goddamn high spot in amongst all that bullshit, and it's really easy to get hurt. And, the old gimmick of grabbing a guy and almost throwing him over the top rope, but holding him there forever and ever and ever and never being able to just explode and throw him over the top rope is ridiculous. And don't get me wrong, I've done that a million times, and it's ridiculous because that's just the way it is. But that's, how you work a Royal Rumble. And a Royal Rumble, I get asked all the time how they work. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and just go detail for detail, but obviously there's some order involved there. And when it's your time, it's your time. But they're a clusterfuck. War Games was easy. It was just a bunch of badass guys inside the ring, and it was a great crowd, and that's all I remember of it. And because I'd probably had about 4 or 5 years in the business at that time, and was a pretty good mechanic, and I had a lot of fun working with all those guys in there. And so it was fun. It was easy. Battle Royal Rumbles are hard. Here's a question about injuries. Hey, Steve. And this is from Russell in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. He said, even though you were dropped on your head by Owen, do you think your finishing move played a significant part of your back injuries? Hulk Hogan once said that if he could change anything from his career, it would be his finishing move. The big boot plus the leg drop every night for 15 years compressed his spine so much and is a huge reason for his current back issues. I listen to every single podcast. Love it. Please answer. Swig a beer. Okay, Russell, I'm going to give you your answer. I tell you what, Fayetteville, North Carolina, right before Monday Night Raw TV taping, Michael P.S. Hayes comes up to me and says, hey, kid, you got a minute. I want to show you something. I said, yes. We go to the ring. We get some enhancement guys. He demonstrates the finish. And then I look at it and try it a few times, and I say, yeah, this is a bad motherfucker. I'm going to use it. A few months later, I would add in the kick to the gut, and that was another conversation with Michael P.S. Hayes, and then, hit the stunner. But to answer your question, and I love that finish. I probably have one of the best, if not the best finish in the history of the business. I'll put myself in the top 5 as far as finish, because there's some great ones. I love the DDT and the Tombstone Piledriver, and they're just some good finishes. And, the goddamn Diamond Cutter was a good one. But anyway, there was many times in my career where I'd throw my lower back out just by, that's what happens when you're in the business. Taking bumps up and down the road every single night, you're going to throw something out, and then you got to jump up and land on your ass on top of it. I don't think it shortened my career at all, because my problems were in the C areas, specifically 3 and 4 was where the fusion was. 2 and 3 weren't so hot, and then 5 and 6 weren't so great either, and we just did a single fusion. But there have been many times when I went to Monday Night Raw, and Vince would be laying out television to me, and, I'd be hitting everybody on the roster with a goddamn stunner. Now, trust me, when you're going on Monday Night Raw, on live TV, in front of millions and millions of people, and all of a sudden you've got to hit a bunch of stunners, that's a gig that you do not turn down. If you're halfway in a wheelchair, you say, yes, sir, that sounds great, I'm going to go out there and do it. But, man, there's a lot of times I went out there and jumping up and down on your ass looks easy, but after a while, you kind of start to cringe when you think about it. But that was only in the brief periods when my back was thrown out. As soon as it healed back up, it wasn't nothing but a thing. But, and I've always talked about guys like Hogan, guys like The Undertaker, those bigger guys that were walking. I mean, Hulk in his prime was, probably 6'6", 310, 320. And Undertaker, legit 6'10", 300, 320. And so the physiological or kinesiology involved just in the movement of the human body is different in guys that long and that big. And so, me being a compact, at 6'1", used to be 6'2", 255 to 265, and look at Flair at 6'1" and 240. Guys, in that range, quick bumpers, but those bigger guys, they age like dogs in the ring, because the bumps affect them more further down the line, in my opinion. Now, you might have a guy, I just recently talked to Kane for damn near an hour at a Monday Night Raw in Tulsa, and we were just talking about how he felt, and he would be a guy that I'd love to have on the show and ask him if he would agree with what I'm saying. But anyway, I'm good. The Stone Cold Stunner didn't affect my career at all. Mine was all cervical related. Oh, man, here's a good one I got from Terry over in Ringgold, Georgia. Y'all know how I love to give a brother a couple of helpful tips. Well, this dude's got some more tips. Hey, Steve, I love the podcast. I've listened to your thoughts on what everyone should have in their car. A 4-in-1 screwdriver, jumper cables, and a knife on your person at all times, and I agree totally. I do think you missed a couple of things, though. I always have a gallon of water, a can of Fix-A-Flat, and a road atlas with me. The atlas is handy because you never know when your phone might run out of juice or GPS might send you off course. The water and Fix-A-Flat will help you limp to a service station if your car craps out on you in the middle of nowhere. These things are all fairly small and can be put in a small bag in the trunk and forgotten about until needed. Thoughts? I tell you what, Terry, yeah, man, Fix-A-Flat is a damn good idea. That gallon of water, whether you use it in your radiator or you got to start hoofing it down the road and you need to carry a jug of water with you, that's a damn good idea. And I tell you what I've been carrying lately is this little gimmick from Matco Tools. It's like a little charger that you can clip to your battery. And I jumped my, right before I came out here to Ohio, I jumped my 2003 Chevy Z71 off over at the Broken Skull Ranch because I was taking my 07 Chevy Z71 to the airport. So I was leaving a truck behind for my wife, and I hadn't driven that thing in a while, and it was dead. And so I made sure that that battery was started before I left my wife at the damn ranch by herself without no wheels for transportation. So I jumped that little bastard off and look under Matco Tools and look for their battery charger gimmick. It's red and it's about the size of 3 iPhone 6s. And it's a bad little motherfucker. You can charge your phone up with it, jump your car off with it. It's got a flashlight on it. And it's very, very handy, and it's smaller than a jump box. And for those of you that love jump boxes, that's another damn good idea. And if you ain't going to do that, at least make sure you do have your jumper cables. Thank you, Terry. I agree with your idea. All of those things are very good things to have. Here's one from Nashville, Tennessee, Paul Brady. Before I answer that, I'm going to take a swig of beer. Steve, you've spoken about how often you're the one calling moves in your matches. I've watched several of your matches and can rarely see you calling a move. What are some of the phrases you use or use to call a move in as few words as possible? I imagine you don't have the time to say, I'm going to throw you into the ropes and then drop kick you. Thanks for your time. Well, Paul, yeah, on a deal like that, you've got a guy and you're just already putting him in motion, so you don't need to say, hey, I'm going to send you in. Because you're already sending him in, and you would just say, for something like that, watch the drop kick. That's it. So, you could, if you watch enough of my films, you'll see me call something here or there, but you really, really tried to keep it on the kayfabe and down low. And that was one of the things, break it in a territory. I was on the back end of the territories, as was Undertaker, Mick Foley, Triple H, Shawn, when they all dried up. But, man, when you're out there working with some of those veterans, you could never let someone see your mouth move. And back in the day, Jerry Lawler was a king, no pun intended, at calling matches and never see anything. But there were many times, and you could have Big Show get on the damn on the podcast and tell you this story. A lot of times, I'd call something and blah, 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 when you hear him tell the story, and all of a sudden you're the other guy's just supposed to know what to do automatically. When I'm out there mumbling, or I got a raspy voice, or I'm huffing and puffing, and so a lot of times guys were going to the ropes. They didn't know what the fuck was coming next. But you watch these days and you see a lot of guys calling a lot of shit on TV, and you guys know who I'm talking about too. Watch your calls. Now, also, the ring is mic'd like never before. It's hard to get away from anything with an audio level, but from a visual level, keep your head down, or put your hand up or your arm up, tuck your head, get into the other guy's body. You know the tricks. Apply them. People want to believe, and, I've been there, done that, and I've blown some calls before, but take pride in making your calls and keep it as smooth as possible. End of story. Here's one from Mike Lyon. He says, hey, Steve, if the Stone Cold gimmick had not worked, what or whose gimmick do you feel would have worked for you? Shit. Ain't no way I could have done The Undertaker. No way I could have been the Heartbreak Kid. No way I could have been Razor Ramon. No way I could have been Diesel. No way could I have been the Hitman, the best there is, was, and ever would be. I think it's a good thing that the Stone Cold thing worked out for me. And the people I just mentioned, their gimmicks worked out exactly perfect for them too. And that's what the hardest thing to do is in wrestling, is to come up with either a gimmick or the not a gimmick that is a marketable gimmick for the machine to be able to push and for you to be able to put asses in seats every 18 inches. And so, I don't know what would have happened had Stone Cold not worked. I would have just been, I would have been like, a lot of guys, happy to be a wrestler, happy to have my spot, happy to go down the road and just be one of the boys. Because when I first got into business, I simply wanted to be a pro wrestler. But when you get in something, you want to go as high as you can because that's the competitive nature and that's the competitive spirit of being a human being and being a competitor in a competitive environment. So I would have been, I was always one of the guys, but I just wouldn't have been Stone Cold. I just wouldn't have reached the heights that I did. And I was very fortunate. I was at the right place at the right time. All the right pieces somehow fell in place after so many years of trying and meeting frustration and red tape and political horseshit. It finally worked out for me, and I had a good time.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
Did you know that right now Geico is offering an extra 15% credit on car, motorcycle, and RV policies? That's 15% on top of the money Geico could already save you. So what are you waiting for? Your dog to make you breakfast in bed? With Belgian waffles and a fresh food compote? As nice as that sounds, that's probably never going to happen. But at least there's never been a better time to switch to Geico. Save an extra 15% when you switch by October 7th. Visit geico.com to learn more. Boy, here's an interesting question from a guy named Jimmy Fox. And he says, Steve, the word brother gets used a ton by pro wrestlers, whether they're legends or current generation stars. Sometimes it feels authentic, and other times it feels used in more of a facetious manner. Is this just a word as part of the pro wrestling locker room lexicon like kayfabe or jabroni, and has just been passed down over time? Or is it a direct reference to Hulk Hogan? Enlighten me, brother. A good question, Jimmy. Okay, now Hulk Hogan, he used the brother thing to the nth degree, and it worked for him. It worked for him very well. But brother was a part of the locker room jargon. All of a sudden, to me, and this is my opinion, me speaking, when you got in, someone would come up to you and, say, hey, man, what's going on, brother? Because now you were one of them. And it was almost like a term of endearment. I mean, you were now in the club. It meant something. You weren't on the outside. You weren't a mark. You were on the inside. And when someone called you brother, you had been accepted. Now, not everybody in the locker room used the word brother. Many guys never used that word at all. But for the guys that did, and I was one of them, but I wasn't an over brother abuser by saying the word too much. But yeah, man, I think it's part of being a club. For a while there, people would say brother, daddy, pally, just almost words that like of relatives. So that kind of got almost quite humorous to a degree. But I just think it was one of those words, and it was kind of a wrestling word from the word go, and it meant you were in the club. And then guys, it almost turned into a cliche, is what it almost turned into. I guess I could call that. But it's been late. It's been a long day. I could be wrong about that. Nonetheless, let's kick out of this one and move on to another question, brother. See what I did there? I went brother on you. Hey, Mr. Austin. I'd like to quickly thank you for all you've done to entertain us over the years. It does not go unappreciated. So I was watching the old 96 King of the Ring yesterday, and I was wondering, in the early days of Stone Cold, you were obviously a heel, but we loved you. Sorry about that. Was it ever hard not to crack a smile when people would give you an overwhelmingly positive reaction? Thanks for your time, Mike Falzone. No, Mike, I tell you what, man, when I was working heel and I'd get a hellacious pop. It wasn't any. The thought of smiling never crossed my mind. I mean, if it was a shit-eating grin because I was getting heat on someone, that's a whole different thing. But in regards to an entrance or something like that, man, it was like a shoot. You can ask damn near anybody in the business, and anybody that kind of half-ass knows their shit. When you're trying to be a heel, you're trying to be hated. Ain't no in-between. It's all or nothing. And really, for the same token, when you're trying to be a babyface, you're trying to be a babyface. But hey, don't get me wrong. You can get pissed off as a babyface, and you can be mean as a babyface. So just the thought of smiling as a heel just because I got a pop never broke into my mind at all. So nope. But it used to really get me mad when Brian Pillman, who I just talked about earlier in the podcast, would come up to me and say, "God damn, kid, listen, you're a babyface." And I would always tell Brian, "Hey, fuck you, man, I'm a heel." I mean, that's almost like calling you a name. When someone calls you a babyface and you're a heel, it's offensive. Hey, Steve, it seems like Southerners like to use examples of what they're talking about in funny ways to describe something. For example, higher than giraffe pussy, madder than a hornet, making chicken salad out of chicken shit, blowing up like a tick. What are these called or referred to? Do you pick them up over time from other people, or do you creatively make them up? I always get a kick out of these expressions. Keep up the good work, Steve. And that's from Brad, from Rancho Cucamonga, out there outside of Los Angeles. I got to drive all the way out to Rancho Cucamonga to go to the Bass Pro Shops when I'm out in Los Angeles. Hey, man, I just grew up in South Texas and grew up hearing all that stuff. I mean, hired giraffe pussy. I didn't invent that, madder than a hornet. I didn't invent none of that. So it's stuff that I've heard and then I passed on. So I'd like to trace that back to see who invented it, because I was one smart motherfucker, and obviously I didn't invent all of them. But I tell you who's funny as fuck is coming up with things just like this. Arn Anderson, AA, the enforcer, badass worker in the ring. Shit, hell of a career. That's one of the funniest guys. Everybody knows Arn's one of the funniest guys in the business, and he's the funniest guy in the locker room. And he's so quick with the one-liners and how he can sit there and on the fly just string together like a minute's worth of insults, summing up the match you just had or whatever he's talking about. No one tops Arn Anderson when it comes to making up the type of sayings that you're talking about. Now, when you talk about quick-witted people, Dean Malenko's high on that list as well. That's a funny sumbitch. But Arn Anderson is the best in the business right now of making up these kind of sayings. Let's move on.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
The wait is finally over. Football is back. Opening night is going down this Thursday, September 10th, as the Houston Texans take on the champion Kansas City Chiefs. You might not be at a game this year, but you can still be in on the action at BetOnline. BetOnline is going the extra mile to make sure you can get in on everything imaginable this season. From game spreads and totals to team, player, and coaching props, BetOnline gives you more options to wager than any place online. You can get in on their season opening bonuses today and start off wagering on win, division, and championship futures today. Head to BetOnline online today and take advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Hey, Steve, a while ago on the Steve Austin Show, you used to ask the people who were listening wrestling trivia questions. Then a few minutes later, you'd tell us the right answer. Why'd you stop this, and is there a chance you could start doing it again? I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, I remember those true or false or multiple choice questions. I'll see if I can get some more in there, Scott. Sometimes it is very time-consuming to try to come up with something that's just silly as fuck that people will get. So that's the only reason I stopped. I mean, my well ran dry. I got writer's block, and I had a bunch of other shit going on. But since you enjoyed them and since you mentioned it, I'll see if I can bring that back to the mix and on the show. Hey, here's a question from Willie Lopez over in Wake Forest, North Carolina, and one of my favorite matches. He said, Steve, my question for you is about a match you had with Chris Benoit on SmackDown where he gave you 10 German suplexes. I was wondering if that was a shoot. Reason being is those were some pretty hard bumps for someone who's had so many issues with his neck to take for a non-pay-per-view show. I thought it was a great match, by the way. You were a great heel. Take care. Hey, thanks, Willie. I love being a heel, and I had a lot of fun working with Chris Benoit. A couple of those hurt just because my neck was still, it wasn't too far removed from neck surgery. But I just figured that was a logical way for those to play in there because I didn't see him making a comeback on me. Not a traditional comeback. And the way we would go and use the finish in that match. So that's why we did that. It was my call. It was my idea. And I explained that to Chris, and he bought into it hook, line, and sinker. And he loved it. And I'll never forget the compliment that he gave me after that match because, I told him we had worked the night before on Raw, and we didn't get much time. And this was SmackDown, which is taped, and we were in his hometown. And I told him because, much like back in the day when we did the blade job at WrestleMania 13, Bret the Hitman Hart and myself, and Bret said, I'll do it because he could take the heat, and nobody could fuck with him because he was Bret Hart. So on this one, I told Chris Benoit, I said, hey, man, they're giving us X amount of time. I said, don't worry about it. We'll go when I say we go, and I'll take the heat. And he just said, okay. And Chris was cool as a motherfucker. So we just went out there, had the people in the palm of our hand, and that's when we hit the 10 German suplexes. Vince comes down, and all the shenanigans happen. But it was a hell of a match, and it was a match that I was very proud of. And he told me after that match, he goes, man, thank you. And we shook hands, and he looked me right in the eyes. He goes, you really got me over. I never forgot that because I've had a lot of people walk up to me after matches and say, thank you very much for the match. Or, goddamn, thank you, that was a great match. And I would say the same thing to them, vice versa. But he understood what I was trying to do. And he goes, you got me over. And I was like, yeah, and I was thinking that was my job. But it meant a lot to him. And it meant a lot for me to hear that from him. And anyway, that was just a good memory I had of that guy. Had a lot of respect for everything that he did in the squared circle. All right, everybody, I'm going to wrap it up with that last question there, man. I got to get my sorry ass to sleep. I'm going to come right back and close this thing down. I appreciate you guys tuning in, sending all the questions. I'm going to get my ass up early in the morning and put on some makeup, go out there and turn in an award-winning performance as a bad motherfucker in this movie. Probably going to have one more glass of beer, get in bed, have a good night's sleep, dream about something happy, wake up, and kick a motherfucker's ass in the morning. I'm coming right back to wrap this show up, and I want to thank you guys, all of you, for sending in your questions to questions@steveaustonshow.com. When you're ready to buy a car, TrueCar is changing car buying forever. Yes, TrueCar helps car buyers get rid of the fear that they might overpay. Every day, TrueCar users receive negotiation-free guaranteed savings, and TrueCar users save an average of $3,221 off MSRP. When you're ready to buy a car, just follow these 3 easy steps. First, download the TrueCar mobile app or go to TrueCar.com to find out what others paid for the car you want. Then register to see upfront pricing information and lock in your savings. Third step is simple. Take your guaranteed savings certificate to the TrueCar certified dealer for a better, hassle-free car buying experience. Some features not available in all states. With TrueCar, you can save time, save money, and never overpay. To see how much you can save on the car you want, simply download the TrueCar mobile app or visit TrueCar.com today. All right, folks, time to wrap this whole shenanigan up. I appreciate you guys sending in all the questions to questions@steveaustonshow.com, and anytime you got anything you want to drop me, send a question, suggestion, comment to questions@steveaustonshow.com. I'm telling you, this show is going all over the world. I am reading every single email that comes in. I'm getting so many emails coming in these days. I mean, I'm having a hard time replying to, the ones. Put it this way, I try to reply to as many as I can, but it's a little overbearing. So, man, that's how the show is growing, and I appreciate the fact that you guys are helping me do that because people from all over the world are listening to this little bitty bastard of a show called The Steve Austin Show, and it's all because you've been telling your friends about it because I ain't got no advertising budget. But anyway, I appreciate all of your support, and I read all of your emails. It's hard for me to respond to each and every single one of them. So anyway, hey man, the season premiere last Sunday of Broken Skull Challenge was badass. Every Sunday, 8 Central, Broken Skull Challenge on CMT with yours truly, Steve Austin, hosting that motherfucker, where the baddest men and women come out to put it all on the line and prove how badass they are, where all the different training disciplines come together and they do battle on the Broken Skull Ranch, the toughest motherfucking ranch in Texas. And you've got Redneck Island still running roughshod on Thursdays. Rednecks out there battling and drinking for $100,000. Thursdays, Redneck Island. Sunday, Broken Skull Challenge on CMT. Hey, all them shirts I'm wearing, they're available at BrokenSkullRanch.com and click on the merch button. And you can also go to ProWrestlingTees.com and check out the Steve Austin section. All the shows, all of the shirts I wear this season on Broken Skull Challenge will be there, and there's some bad motherfuckers coming up. But anyway, it's time for me to wrap this sumbitch up, folks. Once again, I appreciate all the emails that you guys have been sending in. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate you helping me spread the word to all 4 corners of the globe. And I got 2 shows. Family Friendly Tuesday, Explicit Content Unleashed on Thursday. If you want to support the show, the best way to do that is going to PodcastOne.com. Click on the Keep Our Podcast Free button. Find the Steve Austin Show. Click on that. And then you're going to find my Amazon USA, Amazon Canada, my Amazon UK links. And if you do your Amazon shopping on that, they don't charge anything extra, but they kick back a little bit of extra money to the production cost of this show. And that's how we're able to deliver 2 cans of audio whoop-ass each and every single week for you sumbitches. And I appreciate your support. I ain't telling you to buy nothing, but if you want to support the show, if you want to support the cause, that's the best way to help keep making money up in this bitch. And that's what we're trying to do. Pay those gimmicks they send in the mail. Okay, go through all the headaches, hassles, and horseshits that I just told you to, and then just bookmark the sumbitches. And that way you can get to the Amazon links for free. And hit the subscribe button on both the shows, and that way you always get those delivered right to your smart tablet or wherever the fuck you listen to the show at. But anyway, shit, I'm going to end up doing the open of this show in San Antonio. I'm reading my spots in San Antonio. I'm doing the close in San Antonio, but I'm going to answer your questions tomorrow night in Cincinnati before I start working on that movie on Tuesday. And that's how it goes when you're rolling down the road trying to pay those gimmicks they keep sending in the mail to all of us. Folks, until next time, I am Steve motherfucking Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
Thank you for joining us for another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show. Please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and tell your friends. For more Steve Austin Show, go to PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
And now we've got a great segment from the Chris Myers Interview Podcast featuring Dave Mason, BetOnline's betting expert, chatting all about the kickoff to the NFL. Take a listen and be sure to check out BetOnline for all the action.
Okay, so Mahomes and then Rodgers. All right, Jimmy, will you take care? Enjoy South Florida, and we'll talk again real soon.
All right, Chris, enjoyed it.
It was great hearing from Hall of Fame coach Jimmy Johnson, the start of the NFL season. It's going to be good hearing from Dave Mason. To get more information, our friends at BetOnline, which are a sponsor of this show, and Dave's got a lot of inside information, or at least he pretends that he does to help us out, so we can go with confidence in the direction, those of you that want to go in that direction. Dave, it's good to talk to you. It really is great to have the NFL kicking off. And the more recent news is Tampa Bay adding another running back, Leonard Fournette, really in the prime of his career. What does that do for this Buccaneer team? Already they were heavy favorites coming into the year.
Yeah, I mean, they were, wow. Not surprising they added him. Is this kind of like when you saw he signed with him, like, yep, there you go, right with Brady. He gets another weapon. But, the odds didn't move here at BetOnline. We had him at 12-1 before the signing, and we kept them at 12-1. Now, we were already – that really is not negative on Fournette. It's just we already had him a little lower because, so many people have been betting the Buccaneers. Are the most popular bet by far this offseason to win the Super Bowl. We have a humongous liability. A lot of that came in, with the Brady acquisition months back. So we already had them pretty low. So we didn't want to lower their odds anymore. So they're sticking at 12-1.
Yeah, interesting. I think, too, part of the background of Brady leaving New England is he wanted to be surrounded with – he wanted a team that was going to load up offensive talent around him as he got older and worked into his 40s to do his part. New England, it seemed, wasn't doing enough of that. Obviously, the Buccaneers are. So interesting. Who do you have as the favorite? You said the Bucs, the minute Brady got there, that they were the most bet-on team as far as the Super Bowl, at least the favorite?
Yeah, well, they're the most bet-on team. Doesn't necessarily mean they're the favorite, but, action started coming in on them. I forget when Brady signed was like 25-1 and people were betting it. And when rumors were out there, it was like 33-1. So, people start betting at 33-1, 25-1, $10 a pop, $20 a pop, $100 a pop, one bet after the other. It doesn't take long to make a huge liability on our end. So, yeah, they dropped down to 16-1 because of that, and then now 12-1. But the favorite are the defending champion Chiefs. They're currently 6-1. The Ravens are right behind them at plus 650. Then you go Saints, 49ers, and the Buccaneers.
All right. How about Cam Newton for the Patriots starting? What does that do? And I see what you were saying. Obviously, some fans who kind of had a sense where Brady was going, they wanted to jump on that. I think if some fans thought the minute Newton was signed that he would end up being the starter, they might have jumped in early on New England.
Yeah, there was some, not nearly as much, and they really haven't. And it's kind of correlated, right? Because the Patriots quarterback leaves to go to the Buccaneers, and it's actually that move not only had a lot of action on the Buccaneers, but a lot of action was actually coming in on the Bills, like Bills to win the AFC East, and the Bills became a hot kind of bet when the stuff kind of correlated there. But the Patriots have been not getting a lot of action all off season. Now that did pick up a little bit with the signing of Cam, but not anything like Brady going to Tampa Bay. Cam's coming off these injury, and there's questions on how healthy he is. There's questions, will he even be the starter? Now we do know he will start the season as a starter, but nothing close to, the odds really didn't impact the odds at all. So, we still have them at 22-1 to win the Super Bowl. I mean, they're 6-point favorites week one. We're still high on them. I think we hear Bet Online are higher on the Patriots than the betting public is for that. That's for sure. Whereas the betting public's all over the Bills and the AFCs. We're still giving the Patriots. As long as Belichick's still on the sidelines, we don't care who's on that field.
Yeah, it's usually the safe way to go. Who do you have? Give me a long shot. Or I should say a long shot. This year, everything's kind of crazy out there. But a non-favorite, you name some of the favorites that you think is a good, or that people are kind of eyeing as a team to win the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah. I mean, long shot depends how long. I mean, we're talking 50-1, whatever. Cardinals are getting that big. People love the Cardinals this year. If you're talking lower, Colts, people love the Colts. They're down to 20-1. I think they're kind of overvalued myself. But a lot of people are counting on it. There's another quarterback on the move that just impacts odds. I don't really like the Colts at 20-1, but the public's all over them. Long shots, I kind of like that Cardinals 50-1. LA Rams, LA Rams 60-1. I mean, they fell on their face last year, but they're still 2 years out of the Super Bowl. I mean, 60-1 on LA Rams. I mean, they are playing that juggernaut of the NFC West. But if you're looking for a long shot, I put a couple bucks on the LA Rams at 60-1.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, it's interesting because they would have got. We have the expanded playoff this year, right, with the NFL. And the Rams would have been the last team in on the NFC last year. So maybe even in a tough division, as you say, they get in, and then they've got a little more experience. They made that Super Bowl run, and that's good. It's a good point. Atlanta too. I always look at an established quarterback, and I don't know where you are on Matt Ryan, and they said they can play great defense. I don't think Todd Gurley's going to help them very much, but that's another team with a long shot possibility of getting back there. But the key is winning it. How will teams deal with COVID, or how does that affect the Bet Online odds or people that are engaging in this? Yeah,
I mean, it's a big cat and mouse game. It's information is key when you're betting on these games. You know, some of the sharpest minds in betting, those guys are getting information before the books get it, injuries, etc. So, I mean, you know, it's always, we have to be so quick on the draw with injuries. Now it's going to be that compounded times 100 this year with this COVID. So, I mean, odds are going to be on the fly. It's been a, you know, everything from wording on props, you know, everything we've done and other books have done over the years that we were just in our comfort zone with posting futures and props and handling games, all that's been thrown out the window this year with all these other sports. And now I think we're a little bit more prepared now because we've gone through it with the NBA, MLB, changing rules, changing this. Props have to change. We have to know action this prop. What are we going to do with this future, et cetera, et cetera. I think we're a little bit we've had a few months to really – we've learned a lot over the last few months, and it took a lot of big bumps and bruises. But yeah, it's a never-ending every day it's something different. And you know, we just saw in these discussions, you know, college football, for instance, how are we going to handle these Heisman Trophy odds? You know, it's like we had these odds up, you know, pre-COVID, and now players are dropping out. Some players are in. So the Heisman committee hasn't even come to a conclusion yet. Or is the Heisman analysis going to be in January again? Or are they going to maybe include teams in the spring? So it's you know, players are asking me, what are you doing with these odds? Like, we really don't know yet. Whatever we do, it's going to be the most fair way. But I mean, it's just, well, I can't tell you right now. So, you know, but we're trying to handle all these unique circumstances in the most fair way. You know, NBA division odds, we graded all the division winners, the winner, no action, all other bets, you know, because it was so off the wall. So whatever. NFL, we're ready for it. You know, I just know there's going to be some instances where like, oh my God, what do we do here? But we'll figure it out.
Yeah, just like the teams and the leagues and the colleges, they're adjusting on the fly. Before we wrap, just a couple of fun for Bet Online prop bets with the NFL that people you think would enjoy or that they've reacted to.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a ton, man. We have so many. We have like every player you can even imagine. We have listed. We have, you know, we have Adrian Peterson's next team. We have who's gonna, you know, coming off the Jaguars dumping Leonard Fournette. We put up who's going to win the not win, I guess it's not winning, but who's going to get the number one pick of the NFL draft next year. And the Jaguars
actually Bill's the favorite, right?
Yeah, they're the plus 275 favorites. So they're tanking for Trevor.
Who's next,
so,
by the way? Who's after Jackson?
Washington.
Okay.
Yeah, Washington football team. So it'll be a good race.
It'll be a lot of fun. All right, well, Bet Online has it all for you, and Dave will join us from time to time to make sure we're up to date and adjusting as we all do. We thank Dave. We thank Jimmy Johnson. And we thank you for listening to CMI, Chris Myers' interview here on PodcastOne.
Thanks for listening to CMI, the Chris Myers interview. Make sure to subscribe, rate, review, and spread the word. Get new episodes every Wednesday on PodcastOne, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.